Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. Thank you everyone so much for being here today. Wow. How are you doing? It's been a while since we've talked one-to-one because we've had a few interview episodes, and how wonderful were my guests, Elizabeth and Candace. I am so in love with them and so grateful that they shared their wisdom. If you haven't listened to episodes 31, which is all about financial intuition with Elizabeth Ralph, and episode number 30, which is all about using your mind for good and releasing anxiety with Candace James, go back and listen to those this week because they're really powerful episodes and can help you right now. This week, I'm talking by myself in my closet again, and we're talking about quarantine lessons. This is a hashtag that I've been using on Instagram, and I've been sharing just what's been coming up for me during this quarantine, mostly in Instagram posts and stories. So hashtag quarantine lessons. I thought I would elaborate that today on the podcast. So without further ado, here's this week's episode. Happy Woo Woo Wednesday, everybody. Happy number day forever of our quarantine. John and I have been doing 2 week at a time grocery shops so that we're not really leaving the house in between. We've been doing possibly 1 or 2 takeouts a week and just chilling. John is working more than ever. And he's totally in his element. He's been finishing a paper and in the office nonstop. I've been working less than ever. One is that my sources of work besides my business, the freelance work I do, has been dramatically decreased. So I just don't have as much work to do. That's with my mom. And 2, I haven't felt like it. Not only have I not been working, I haven't been organizing everything in the house. I haven't been cleaning out my closet. I haven't cleaned the garage. I haven't been obsessive about keeping the house cleaned or doing makeup or getting dressed or anything. It's been an interesting time, and I'm 100% now just embracing it. What I noticed is, one, if you look on Instagram, it's really easy to see others doing what you're not doing. For example, one thing I'm doing a ton of is cooking and baking my little butt off. And I'm making some really amazing meals. And I can understand that some people might look at that on Instagram and be like, oh my God, she makes these amazing meals every night and she's baking every morning. And oh my gosh, look at all that fresh food. Well, that's my one strong area right now. Meanwhile, I look at people on Instagram and I'm like, oh my God, they're organizing their closet, they're organizing under their sink, they're cleaning out, they're starting new projects, they're releasing new programs, they're serving their audience at a new level. And I'm like, oh, I'm failing at that. And then I'm sure some moms will look and be like, oh my God, look at all the people who don't have kids and how much they can get done. And other moms look at other moms and are like, oh my God, they're waking up at 4:15 a.m. Shout out to one of the coaches that I work with, Jen. And they're homeschooling their kids and they're doing all these fun projects. And meanwhile, all I can do is get my kid fed every day. Look, don't look to Instagram for your comparison of if you're doing things okay right now. That's quarantine lesson number 1 that I had to learn a few weeks ago was stop looking to Instagram for your sanity check because it's going to make you feel like you're failing and flailing and more insane. Where we need to be looking for our sanity check is inward. We need to be asking our inner voices. We need to find a few moments of quiet and check in with ourselves to see if we're doing things right for us, not for how it's going to look on Instagram, not for any other reason than to say, am I doing what's serving me right now? So I was feeling so bad about what I wasn't doing that my mind, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. I had this really great insight and awareness about my mind, but I'll come back to that. But I was feeling, quote, blocked from my inner voice, and like I was doing everything wrong and bad and not enough, and just I was being lazy in my mind. So I reached out to my friend Jen, who is a social media coach, but she also is an intuitive social media coach, and she does intuitive readings for people. And she's very, very talented, and I could not recommend you work with her more than anything, because if you're having trouble going inward, which is what I'm teaching you, is like just go inward, all the answers are there, and they are. Sometimes it's helpful to go outward, and Jen's a great resource for that. She connects to your guides and helps you receive information that you can't receive on your own. And I scheduled a session with her, and through the session, oh man, I had just some really major releases. Like I got hit with like this wave of dizziness and just started crying because what I realized through what she, presented to me that she received was that I've just been holding on so tight, trying so hard and being so critical of myself and my own journey and not allowing it to unfold. And how interesting is that? Because it's what I teach, is what I'm most passionate about, is getting us all to go inward and trust the process and allow things to unfold and not compare, and ask your inner voice when you need guidance and stop seeking answers from everywhere else except yourself. And yet here I was asking someone else for help and realizing how much I was not giving myself the grace and compassion that I encourage my clients and everyone else to give themselves. And it was really profound because Jen held space for me to really process and receive this. And that is one of those times when, while I believe all the answers are within, if you're really feeling like you can't get there, hire help. I mean, that's what I do with my clients in the inner voice sessions, is I'm holding space for you so that you can go inward. And I'm helping ask the questions from the perspective of your mind so that you can kind of bliss out. Your mind can go on vacation and your inner voice will get a chance to speak. And Jen did something similar for me. And it just brought me to tears, realizing the pain that I was putting myself through. And maybe you can relate to that. I mean, I've talked to so many people, friends, family, clients, people in the online business coaching community that I coach in, and we're being hard on ourselves. We've set some sort of mental expectation of what this should or should not be, what this time is for. And then we're either doing it or we're not. And the problem is if you have an undefined expectation, you just think you should be doing more and better, and your life should look like what others are doing, then you disconnect from what you truly need. And you don't honor that guidance that's coming up within you. And then you write it off as, being lazy, not good enough, not productive. It's not that simple. We all have more time at home, right? Some people have kids and that's taking a lot of time out of their days. Some people have spouses. Some people have small apartments and no place to work. And everyone's quarantine life and everyone's quarantine lesson is going to be different. And the biggest disservice we can do to ourselves is to make our lesson look like someone else's. For example, for me, what I learned, and of course, through working with Jen, it really helped me, was this is a time of the words that came through were of healing. And I was like, well, I don't really have a lot to heal from, story. And she's like, well, maybe the healing is from all of the expectation and pressure and internal criticism that you put on yourself. Ugh, mic drop. I mean, serious mic drop. I really broke down after I heard that because it resonated so deeply. Everyone's healing process is different. Everyone's everything is different. We're uniquely connected in this consciousness of life, and we have all these threads connecting us, and yet we're also all individuals on our own paths. And for me, what came through was even though from the outside, it technically doesn't look like my life is a lot different. A lot has shifted internally for me. And this is a time for me to pause and process. Pause and process. I'm having ideas come forward, but they're incomplete. And so I don't yet have the jet fuel attached to the ideas to propel them forward and bring them out into the world, to birth them. So instead, I'm sitting with the nothingness. I'm doing very little. And for me, you guys, if you know my husband, and if you don't, let me just tell you, he is the hardest worker I know. It's in his DNA. He actually really enjoys it. And he's so good. He has so much stamina. He can work 12, 14 hours a day. He doesn't get distracted. He doesn't have social media. He's just a workhorse. And he's writing papers and doing research and doing all of these really amazing things with this time. And it's really serving him. And I've had to really swallow my ego because I'm not working like that. I mean, I never work like he does, but I am not doing almost anything. So I've had to swallow my ego and not compare myself to him. And literally, like yesterday, I sat on the couch and read all day. And John worked all day. And I did not, I'm getting tearful because I didn't sit in judgment of myself, of how much I'm not doing. And I think it's so important for each of us to really honor whatever is coming up and going on and let that happen. And I'm blessed and lucky and grateful because my husband does not put the same expectations and pressures on me that I put on myself. And so he doesn't walk out and be like, oh, why aren't you doing anything? That's my own story in my mind that that is coming up. Wow, that's interesting that I'm crying again with this conversation. This is what came up when I was working with Jen. And, we have these running internal dialogues that push us and challenge us and make us question everything that we're doing with ourselves. And all that happens when we're comparing and looking externally to other people is it's validating. We're looking for validation of our own internal negative story. And it's not helpful. It's not helpful. But if you do find yourself doing that, it's a reflection, it's a mirror of what you're criticizing in yourself. And it's an opportunity to step back. And over the last couple of weeks, I really have stepped back. And if I feel like reading all day, I read all day. And then, if I feel like baking all day, I bake. And I have certain work that I need to do. I write my newsletter every week. I have content that I create for the members in the Align in 5 membership. I record this podcast. I do coaching every day in the Business by Design coaching group. I post content on Instagram. But beyond that, I'm not creating new, and I do a little bit of work for my mom, but I'm not actively putting new work on my plate. And the realization, to bring this story full circle, that I came to was my mind is so obsessed with worth and work, right? Like I have to be doing to be valuable. My mind is so obsessed with that story that all it's been telling me is you got to work today. You got to work today. You got to get that desk upstairs into the office so you can work. And I finally stopped and I questioned it. And I said, hold on, mind. What work do you think we're doing? What work? Because as I've discussed, like I'm already doing the work that needs to be done, the minimum viable output. I'm getting the required work done that I just listed. But my mind thinks I just need to be working. And when I stopped and questioned it, it didn't have an answer. So my mind is stuck in the story, society's story, of we have to sit at a desk all day to be working. But I don't freaking have work to do, guys. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't have more work to do. I'm not in a launch. I already did my launch for my program. I have my content. I know what content I'm creating. I don't have, quote, work that needs to be done besides the work that I'm doing. And yet my mind is stuck in the story that I have to keep working. So when I finally questioned it, I realized, again, my mind associates work with earning money and earning money with my worth, right? Work and worth. Earning money equals I'm valuable to the household in life. And the funny thing is, again, I asked the better question. I challenged my mind's chatter. I didn't just hear it. I finally stopped and challenged it. If I were still working, quote, working as in moving forward on the inspired ideas that I've had that are not yet ready to be released. So if I was forcing output, creative output on something that's not even ready to come forward, I would in fact be doing free work because as you may or may not know, a lot of the content, all of the content that I create for you guys, it's free. It doesn't matter if it takes me 6 hours to create a free ebook like the Inner Voice Guide, or if it takes me 20 minutes to record a video that is massively helpful to people, or a couple hours a day to record all of my daily activities on Instagram. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. The net output is I don't get paid for most of the content I create. That's why I do one-on-one coaching. I do the Inner Voice coaching. Obviously, I have free 15-minute coaching sessions, and I coach for Business by Design community. I get paid for that. I do work for my mom. But and my Align in 5 membership. Those are the ways I get paid, but I don't get paid from posting on Instagram all day, and yet I do that to serve. So the funny thing is my mind wants me to be working and creating these new projects that I'm not ready to start, and yet I still wouldn't get paid. Which means my mind is associating work and worth. It's actually not even worth. It's just associating busyness to being valuable. Because once I challenged it, it was like, oh, right, you don't earn money just by being busy. And yet my mind is still making that connection. Guys, this is insanity. And I know that if I'm experiencing this, a lot of other people are as well. That like all of a sudden, even if you're still earning money, you're like, well, I have more time, so I have to do more. I have to be busy because my busyness is directly related to my value. Holy shit. So I've had to swallow a big humble pie, a big humble pill, I don't know what you call it, and stop. And finally witness what was going on in my mind. And all of that it was very subtle, right? And behind the scenes, but it was like this driving force of insecurity in my life and in my days, because it was like, I need to either be busy, be thinking about being busy, talk about all the things I should be doing, or actually be working. And anything that's not those things is not valuable. But what if, especially for me, this is what I'm experiencing, but I encourage you to ask yourself some more questions. What if resting, contemplating, reading books, walking in nature, breathing, what if that's part of the work? And James Wedmore says this, one of my mentors, the work is in the rest. What if this pause, this giant pause that I'm choosing to embrace as a pause, is the incubation period for something big that's within me? What if all of these random ideas that are kind of showing up, but they're incomplete, instead of acting on them, I just keep waiting and breathing and trusting and allowing and witnessing what happens when I rest? It felt so good to just read all day. I've been reading all day, like half of the days in the week. And then I'll like do some stuff. And then I'll read, and then I'll cook some dinner. And I'm taking an inner voice facilitator training right now. In fact, I will be asking for some volunteers who want an free inner voice session with me, because I'm going deeper and deeper into this practice. And so that's my work. It's every night from 6 to 8 p.m. But that work is still a form of rest and inspiration for me. So what if all of this pause is just an incubation period for something bigger to come through? You may have similar questions for yourself. Like, ask yourself, what ultimately is behind my desire to do? Is it to keep my anxiety at bay, right? Is it to make myself feel important? Is it to keep my mind from, criticizing me? Is it because it brings me joy? What is behind your desire and need to do? And what happens if you disconnect? I'm like cutting the cord here of the association between doing and busyness and your worth and your value. Not just your monetary value, but your worth and value as a human being, right? I don't remember who says this, but we are human beings, not human doings. And yet we live our lives with the need to do before we can be. We're like, well, once I get all of this, then I can be happy. Once I lose the weight, then I can relax. Once my house is all settled, then I can read a book on the couch. And for me, it's always, well, once I make enough money, then I can set a schedule that's more relaxed. And yet I resist that and I have a relaxed schedule, but then I criticize myself the whole time. You see, resting and pausing is not valuable if the whole time you're in the resting, you're also resisting. So if you're resisting the rest, not to be confused with resisting arrest, but either way, resisting arrest or resisting the rest is not serving you, because it's creating pain in a moment where you'd want to be in pleasure. Have you ever had like a whole weekend day where you do nothing, but all day you're like, oh, I should be doing laundry. Oh, I should have grocery shopped. Oh, I should clean out the fridge. And then by the end of the day, you just kind of feel frustrated and not relaxed, and you didn't do anything? Either embrace it fully and just stop, or do. But that in between is so yucky of not doing and judging yourself for it. So what can you do? This is such a good question, to bring more compassion to yourself. I mean, this revelation for me was a massive breakthrough. And I didn't just have the breakthrough and then continue on. I sat with it and I was like, what is this? And I continue to sit with it. And now I'm playing with embracing it. And I'm really, if I could only explain how deeply inward I'm going, I am listening to the nudges of my inner voice. For example, I was going to bed and I just felt this little nudge, like it was just like a little popped into my head. It was like, put oil on your feet. And my mind was like, that's annoying. That is too much work. But I keep getting the nudge. So I've been doing it. And my sleep has been so amazing. And then in the morning, it's like these little nudges to do things. Instead of hearing them and ignoring them, I'm actually starting to follow. And so yesterday while I was reading, all of a sudden I was like, okay, that's enough reading. I need to do more. I gotta get something done. And then I just felt the pull right back to the book. It's like, just read. Just read and be and breathe and receive and let it all unfold. It doesn't mean I stopped life, but I'm just shifting how I look at it. Yes, I work. I have work to do and I do my work, but I have significantly less work to do, and I'm just now seeing and realizing that I do not have to fill that time with more doing. I can do nothing. And it's not like I'm going to embrace being lazy. No, I am truly of the belief that this non-doing is actually helping me become who I need to be. And it's helping to create and connect to something deeper within me, which will then reproduce outward in something that I get to share with others. I know that ultimately whatever is coming out of this, my own transformation, which is truly, I feel like I went back into the cocoon and I'm going to come out as a new butterfly, a different butterfly than I was before. And that whatever comes out of that is going to be this massive way that I get to serve you all. Whether it's just in how I am able to present the content, whether it's the one-on-one sessions that I'm going to be going deeper into and the way the membership is structured. It's not that I'm doing new things, but I believe that my being is going through a massive transformation and shift and release of the shame and the guilt and the judgment and the criticism. And I'm stepping forward into compassion. And only through releasing my own, crap, can I really truly step into that place of serving for each of you and hold the space for you to go through this transformation as well. I'm so grateful for it. I really am, through the challenges, through the pain, holding in the mirror up to myself, and this for you as well, witnessing what is happening. What are your quarantine lessons? What transformations are you going through? What is uncomfortable? Where are you noticing shifts in consciousness, in connection, in compassion, in your willingness to look at your stuff and sit with whatever comes up? You don't have to actively say, I'm going to find problems and then solve them. No, it's just, who are you being and how are you being during this time and what's unfolding for you? For some people, it is productivity. They're writing books, they're organizing their whole home. Like they're starting new projects. It's beautiful, but it doesn't need to be any certain way. And that's all I'm saying is your quarantine lesson, what is unfolding, what is being pointed out to you, what wasn't working for you is showing up. It was already there. It was always there. But now it has space to bubble to the surface so you can look at it. And it's like, see me. Use me as a lesson so that you can really be free of that. Sending you all so much love. I'm grateful for this outlet and for my friends and my family and everyone that I can lean on during this time. And I hope you all have that as well. And remember, I'm also here. I have coaching office hours every day. For an hour, you can sign up for a free 15-minute session. And the link is in the show notes. It's also on Instagram in my bio. You can sign up and get 15 minutes for free with me and just work through some stuff. Or we can drop right down to your inner voice and bring you that inner sense of peace that you're ultimately seeking. So I'd love to see you there. And otherwise, I'll see you on Instagram at Dana_Evans. Have a beautiful week, my friends. Sending you so much love and encouraging you to witness the lessons that are coming through. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans or find me on my website at alignful.com.